Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Expanse reaction video. Today I'm going to be watching, reviewing, and reacting to Season 3, Episode 11. So we're pretty near the end. And the last episode, like many episodes before it, was fairly cliffhanger-y. We just experienced Holden having a pretty intensive vision, and at the same time, everyone else who is within this space after passing through the ring is now apparently seen as a threat after what happened with the Martian Marines. And so now they're all being encased in these cyst-like bubbles that prevent them from moving, is what I've gathered from that. And so I'm imagining not in a great place because it was all fairly disruptive from what I saw there. So nobody's really in an ideal situation at the moment. So yeah, only a couple of episodes left, and I have been told that 12 and 13 should be watched together, so that is currently my plan. I will be watching them back to back next week, and then that'll be everything we've got so far. But I'm really excited, ready to get into it, so episode 11, here we go.
Degree plasma. This is insane.
Nobody move!
What now?
Traipsing an RPG up the shaft.
Why?
Just do it and do not hit anything. That's an order.
Fire in the hole.
Speed limit's changed. Watch your thrust to stay under 28 meters per second.
Okay,
We're stuck here just
so
like that. Good call, Gunny. Let's just get the fuck out of here.
so it's not that it just froze everything, it's that it reduced the speed limit that you could be moving, or anything could be moving, before seen as a threat. Okay, makes sense. She's like wedged in there?
Lisa, try let me know you're alive.
Where are you?
Over here. How bad for you?
Not the best.
Oh,
The machine got me by the leg. You?
Still in one piece of me somehow.
yeah. He looks stuck, but she looks bad.
The speed limit must have dropped for some reason. Can you move, Kay?
Well, not a lot.
Can you reach your hand terminal?
Someone will come looking for you.
Nobody know I'm down here.
What? Come, Nina. You are the captain of this ship. Someone should always know.
I needed to be alone, so I didn't punch out my first officer for his constant second guessing.
Oh, Mama Sabaka.
Well, you got one thing right. You and I definitely have a problem to work out.
Good in my quarters. I'm a trained nurse. I can help with the wounded.
You want to help? Go find people with broken bones and get them to a med bay.
I can do more here.
There's nothing you can do for these people except ease their pain.
What are you talking about? If staples and sutures are all most these injuries need.
This is your first time in Zero G. Without gravity, wounds can't drain. Blood pools and clots, tissue swells, any internal bleeding is a death sentence. Your chaplain or something?
Civilian. Pastor.
You might want to put in a good word with your boss.
Oh my
It's only gonna
god.
get worse.
That, I had never even thought of something like that.
Oh, those Mormons, huh?
Yo, what's that mean for
They
drummer?
built the most advanced ship in history so they can farm like primitives.
There should be a switch with the mark auxiliary.
Even if she
battery.
gets out of there.
That will turn on the mech arm.
Okay.
Go down! Up! Stop! Grab!
Can't believe that worked.
Well, the ingenuity at its finest.
Oh, this show managing to make that, like, extremely suspenseful.
Forward.
box glue. Can you reach it?
That's what I get for trying to help someone. What are you talking about? She tried to kill me.
Why would anyone try to kill you?
Clarissa now.
Uh-oh.
No. She's trying to kill James Alden. She won't stop. Don't go.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. Tilly? Hey, Tilly, look at me. It's gonna be okay.
It's like Anna's always the person that gets given the information about.
You're really good at this.
Tilly, hey, Tilly.
Oh, the tears don't fall out.
Whose idea was the uniforms? Yours or Dawes?
Mine. Dawes laughed at me. He thought the idea was ridiculous.
So you disobeyed him?
No. No.
So underneath that, he's like a dreamer.
It was necessary for us to start wearing them.
I was only convinced by his own idea. I sacrificed too much of my life to adopt the tradition of my enemy.
All the poor and oppressed who ever fought for their equality, dressed in what they
This
had.
is another of your teaching moment. I prefer for bleed out in silence.
Hey,
He has a
you
point, though.
draw that out. When the victim becomes the victorious, they adopt a uniform to show that they are now one warrior. Individuals can be divided, conquered, but symbols endure.
We are who we are. That's what makes us better. That's the way the inners need to see us.
Yeah, well, they will in time. But right now, they need to see us as one. Well, I have no desire to look like anyone
I
other
think
than
everything he's
myself.
saying makes perfect sense.
But I will sacrifice my pride to make something better for the future. I hope that one day, that what makes us better.
You were sick and nigh to death. Yes.
Holden, he left a while ago with Miller.
Minna. What do you mean?
She's gonna think he's just out of it.
Charlotte! Charlotte, wake up!
She's fading in and out.
That's not how I thought it would end for me.
No, it's not over yet. What are you doing?
Our situation here gonna be multiplied 100-fold through the ship. Cannot afford to lose us both.
Camino, what are you doing? What?
Felt the ingenuity at its finest.
Tell me what you're doing.
The ship needed captain, and you got what you want.
There's still hope.
I was wrong. How the optimist I know not yet dead.
Charlotte!
Yeah.
Charlotte!
They almost wake up? I figured someone was going to save Naomi, but I thought like Amos or Alex would wake up. I didn't think that was gonna happen. Wow. That was great.
We are all victims of the same catastrophe. But the Behemoth is unique. This ship, my ship, can create spin gravity. So I am able to offer it to all of you. Bring your wounded here so that they may heal. You will be welcome. Let us embrace all of you.
Our order is what?
Everything.
Everything.
And everything.
So they're going to leave us hanging with that, going into the, I guess it's technically episode 12 is not the season finale, but it's basically a two-part episode, so kind of the season finale. Yeah. They're gonna just leave us hanging, wondering what that means. Yeah, so I thought this was a fantastic episode. Honestly, looking back on it, it's interesting to me that I was so kind of engrossed and even emotionally invested in a lot that was happening, considering that our four main characters, really, if you could say main characters, the crew of the Rossi, were pretty much not in the majority of this episode, with the exception of Naomi, and even she was only in like a brief moment near the beginning, and then like the last, I don't know, third-ish of the episode, maybe? I don't know if that's exactly right, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Well, the vast majority of the episode was focused on following Anna and everything that was happening on the UN ship, as well as Clarissa and her attempts to find Holden, and then everything happening on the Behemoth. So I thought that was an interesting choice, but it paid off really well. They did a very good job. As I said, I was very emotionally invested in everything that was happening there. So I think that a lot of the most interesting stuff that was happening had to do with what was going on Behemoth. But before I get into like specific, particular events and characters stuff, I just thought that this episode was another one that I really enjoyed for the fact that it continued to do what the show has done throughout its entire run, which is present new ideas to me that once it's out there make complete and total utter sense, but I never would have thought of. And that's, again, the show looking at things from a more realistic scientific aspect. The idea that if you've been severely injured and you're bleeding, either bleeding out pretty badly, but especially bleeding internally, and there's no gravity, that you're basically screwed. The bleeding won't be unless they're able to get you into some gravity. So that was really interesting, something that I had never thought of, and actually, it's another one of those instances where it's most sci-fi does nothing to do with that. So people could be tremendously, seriously injured in most sci-fi shows and films, and that sort of thing is never considered or thought about. So yeah, and I thought they did a good job with the way that they explained it by having Anna not really understand either, because she's not someone that spent a ton of time in space. But yeah, that was really interesting. And then even little things like the tears, the tears not falling from your eyes if there's no gravity and you're crying. Yeah, really, really cool, interesting. So I just wanted to say that before talking about the character stuff. And then, so Anna, that was a fantastic moment for her at the end. I did not see that coming at all. I think I mentioned I expected Naomi to be saved. I didn't think that she was going to just get her neck crushed or windpipe crushed there by Clarissa. But I thought that either Amos or Alex, probably Amos, would have woken up and that's what was happening. I did not see that coming with Anna at all, but I think it makes sense, and you know, it says a lot about her that even though she doesn't really have a lot of experience in space, so she surely doesn't have experience, you know, actually like spacewalking or floating out in space, that she decided to take that huge risk in order to follow Clarissa out there to stop her from doing further harm after what she had already done. And it makes a lot of sense to me with Anna's character, and but I didn't see it coming, and I loved it. That was great. Yeah, and I also think it's funny that she is the character that so far, like a lot, when there's some sort of secretive information about somebody who's lying and manipulating things in order to serve their own purposes, that she somehow just gets this information delivered to her because of where she is at the time and who she is. And so she's the one that finds out about Ehrenreich and is able to deal with that. And she's the one that now found out about Clarissa and, you know, saved Naomi's life as a consequence. So yeah, I think that's interesting. And her character is one that I've gradually come to be more invested in throughout the course of her time on the show, so I thought this was a good episode for her. And then Ashford and Drummer being kind of the big center point of this episode for me, in my opinion anyway. Everything that they were saying, everything that was happening there was interesting to me and shed a lot of light on both of their characters. And I liked what Drummer said kind of before she, you know, crushed herself and went unconscious, about how she thought that was it idealists or optimists? I think it was idealists. All the idealists that she knows, she thought that they were dead, but she was wrong. And that's kind of what I was thinking with what he was saying about, you know, the uniforms and the idea that we need to present a united front, and eventually we can put forward our true Belter identity and act like ourselves, and we won't have to do this sort of thing. But at first, a formerly basically colonized people who have earned some level of freedom and are trying to take their place in the power dynamics of this galaxy-wide human race, they have to adopt kind of the methods, the practices of the people that formerly were oppressing them in order to gain any sort of respect or even be looked at as slightly legitimate. And his idea that, you know, first we need to show that we are one, and one of the ways that we do that is with symbols, and that's completely true. I completely agree with everything he said about the significance of symbols in sending political messages, not just to, say, people from Earth and Mars, but the Belters themselves, the idea that you want to bring them all together. But yeah, it was kind of idealistic, and so I liked that she mentioned that. It was interesting watching them having to work together while they simultaneously have some distrust of each other. It's not like, it's kind of, I'm trying to find the right words for what I want to say here. It's like they distrust each other's motives for when it comes to power. Like they don't necessarily trust each other's decision making in terms of the best strategy for the ship or the belt. And Drummer sees Ashford as someone who's clearly trying to undermine her somewhat because he himself wants to be the captain. And, you know, we kind of saw at the end some of the stuff, I'm the captain, my ship, and things he's done. She's not wrong about that. So there's a lack of trust in that respect. But underneath that, there's like a different kind of trust that does exist. And I don't know if it's just down to their knowledge of who they each are, and that they both know that the other one will try to do what's best for the belt, even if that what they think is best for the belt, the other person thinks is not. They believe, maybe it's like they believe in each other as Belters, you know, if that makes sense. So despite the fact that they're having this argument, this conflict that they're both saying we need to work out, they're able to pretty clearly come together, work together in a very interesting way, and a scene that shouldn't have been nearly as tense as it was, to try to grab their the communication device out of the air, with Drummer being his eyes. That was all really well done. So yeah, it was great, and I was very scared for her. I was scared for Drummer the entire time. I'm happy that now I'm assuming that she's going to live because of what they did. But now it's gonna kind of get back to the dynamic between the two of them. Will they be in conflict again going forward? Because now he's put himself in a pretty advantageous position politically. He did the right thing by offering the safety of the ship where people can heal to Earthers and Martians, as well as the people from the Belt. And because we now know he's kind of an idealist, that I don't want to say his motives were entirely political. He probably did genuinely want to save people. But at the same time, also the way that he did it with presenting himself as the captain and saying, my ship, he's put himself in the position to be kind of like the spokesman for Belters in this situation at least, and, you know, maybe negotiate with people from Earth and Mars who are in positions of power about what to do next, and maybe make some connections and such, and be viewed as the legitimate leader by those other factions, which is pretty significant when you're going to try and, say, negotiate things. We saw this in the past with Fred Johnson and Anderson Dawes, and how they're variously viewed. So yeah, I thought that was just very well done all the way around. And so we didn't really get any concrete information about Holden's vision after this. Again, I think it was an interesting decision, but I liked it to focus on everybody else in the aftermath, and then at the end kind of leave us with just a little taste of what's to come with Holden waking up and speaking to Bobby and saying he saw kind of like the end of everything, whatever that means. But yeah, so I'm very excited to see what's coming next. I can't imagine if I was you guys and you had watched this when it first premiered, and at this point, did you know that the show was saved or not? Because I imagine it would be pretty awful to be at this point in the show and to think that it was going to be canceled. But you guys let me know. But alright, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hopefully I will see you next time for the 2-part episode. Bye.